Welcome back to this leadership series. I'm so grateful to be introducing a new friend. But actually, Kelly, I think we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while, and it's just recently we started to talk, which I'm very excited. So I am Elle Ingalls. I am your host of this leadership series. My business is pressure-free living. So I help people reduce stress, anger, and anxiety so they can perform at a high level without all the stress, burnout, and what happens in relationships when we're all stressed out and burned out. So Kelly, I'm going to pop it to speaker view and just would love to have you introduce yourself, share who you are, and what you do, and let's get into leadership.
Fantastic, Elle. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Kelly Scheer, and I am an executive coach and CEO peer facilitator. And what that means is I gather groups of people, generally smarter than me, and we talk about leadership and business challenges. So I am in coaching and I'm in group facilitation, and I couldn't think of a better way to fill my days. So that's when I'm not carting around my 14-year-old. So I like to say I'm an unpaid Uber. But on the other side of things, I am a leadership coach and business development coach.
Oh, it's beautiful. And you and I were talking too that part of the groups that you run are Vistage groups. And I'd love for you to just share what Vistage is before you launch into, how you help your clients and what leadership is all about for you.
Of course. Well, I appreciate that. Vistage is actually the world's oldest and largest executive coaching firm. Vistage has been around for almost 60 years, maybe more at this point. And what it does is focus on high level, high performing executives in small to mid sized businesses. And essentially, we create peer groups. And what peer groups do, so CEOs and business owners and key executives of businesses in our area, which my area is Southeast Michigan, we create peer groups for folks to share their business challenges, their wins, their thoughts. And it truly is, it's a bit of magic, actually. I'm kind of surprised how well it actually works. Vistage is really about gathering like-minded, and that just means open to change, open to suggestions, vulnerable, lifelong leaders, gather them together in a group and kind of unpack what's on their minds so they get better ideas. They get an unbiased opinion about their business problem and their business issues. So at Vistage, we gather executives, we meet regularly, and essentially we try and help each other with sort of the everyday and the big growth problems too that happen in business.
I think it's really wonderful. I've been in several masterminds, and there's nothing better than having an unbiased
Right.
look at what you're doing. I love that you brought that forward.
Right. And I say this all the time. It is truly the most altruistic business experiment I've ever been a part of. And having been in healthcare and nonprofit and real estate and all kinds of different businesses, I've never seen it work this well, which is to say that my group, my CEOs show up for each other. They genuinely want to help each other, not just because they're fantastic people who want to help the world, but because they know these people. I always tell people, find your tribe, find your group of people who really gets you. And what we find is when you're leading a company, when you're the owner, the CEO, when the buck stops with you, there aren't a whole lot of people around there. So many people work decades and decades, all their lives, some of them, to get to that pinnacle, right? The top. And when they get to the top, we can talk about pressure free living. My goodness, not only are they burned out and sometimes crispy fried, but they're all alone. And they
Yeah.
look around and think, well, great view, but nobody's here. And so that's what Vistage really does. It provides an opportunity to be with someone, have someone help you walk through, or say, you know what, Elle, that's the best idea I have heard all year. So that you have that confidence to go forth and say, you know what, it's not just my head saying this is a good idea. My gut is good, and my peers say, yeah, let's give it a try. Here's the interesting thing about peer groups. Those executives who engage in peer groups like Vistage grow their companies 3 times faster than executive and business owners who don't.
Oh,
Why?
that's so interesting. Yeah, that's really, really interesting.
Right. And we know it's because the crazy ideas, quote unquote, that are up in your head are actually solid, fantastic business thoughts and plans. And with a peer group, you get to flush them out a little bit. You've got a little bit more confidence. You understand them better. You've maybe thought of all the ramifications. And so you do that. You take the leap, you do the things. Growth happens when you're in a supported environment. Proven time and time again. Dun & Bradstreet does this study with us every single year, over and over and over again. 3 times faster growth in an executive peer group like Vistage.
Wow. Wow. That's really powerful. And I've interviewed a lot of speakers so far, but no one has talked about the power of the peer group. I think that's what we should title this, like power of the peer group, you know?
And it was the wonderful thing about it is people find that, you know, you walk through an issue and you unpack something, and sometimes it's really complicated and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just someone saying, you know what, Kelly, you probably should have fired that CFO a year ago, but you didn't. Tell me why you didn't. And then I'll say, well, I was scared, or I was afraid, or I didn't want this to happen, or we had books or taxes or whatever it is. And all the peers will say, well, okay, what's worse now, or the fear of, you know, something you don't know? And so people take risks. They also make decisions they never would have made, and they have accountability partners. So if Elle and Kelly decide that they're going to talk about firing that CFO, and I'm going to check up on Elle to see if she did that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to do it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, right, we hold each other accountable and we check up on each other. It truly is one of the most impressive models that I have ever witnessed in business, and it works. And, you know, they genuinely care about one another. They call each other all the time. We meet 9 times a year and they talk every month or every couple of weeks, or, you know, some folks just call and make sure, hey, you know, how you doing? So it really is a tribe of people who walk and talk the same language, but interesting, they're not in the same business.
Oh,
So what
right.
we have, yeah, industry exclusivity. So there are no 2 CEOs in the same business at the table. That's important, right? Because now you can say things like, thinking about selling my company, or I'm thinking about acquiring another company, or I want to start a new business vertical, or whatever it is. You get to grow and stretch, and you're not looking across the table like, is that guy going to eat my lunch here? Or are we going to be able to have an honest and vulnerable conversation? So it really creates a safe space for growth.
Oh, I love it. It's really beautiful. You know, you talked about accountability partners, and I was just in Wisconsin for a wedding, but my one of my accountability partners lives in Wisconsin, about an hour north. So we had dinner Thursday night. I came in a day early. I went up and had dinner with him. We've been accountability partners speaking every Monday for 5.5 years. And I have another one that I meet every single morning, weekday morning, and we've been together for 5 years.
Incredible.
And it is so powerful to have a witness who has seen your growth and seen things change. And again, they're in totally different industries, so it's unbiased what we say to each other. So that leadership peer group, but also accountability partners. So those are 2 key things that sometimes leaders will say, I don't have time for that.
Of course.
And honestly, yeah, go ahead. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Who does? My answer to that is always, who does? So when I talk to people about, oh, I'd love to do that, Kelly, but I don't have that time. And I'll say, well, good news is the other 12 people who sit at the same table don't have the time either. But that's the answer, right? But they make it. So here's what we say. If you are in the business so much and so deep in the weeds, in the business, what a peer group like Vistage allows you to do is work on the business. So it allows you to elevate yourself and look down 30,000 feet, 100 feet, it doesn't matter, but you have a little bit of objectivity to be able to think bigger about it. If someone can't do that and allow themselves the time to do that, then I might argue they're not ready for that kind of accountability and they don't have the time. Now, I would say, let's trade that off though. And what's going to happen? If you don't have the time, then you don't have the time to grow your business, save your business, you know, all of those things. So of course we don't have time. Of course not. But I also like to say too, who's the only person who can make that decision? Does someone need to give you permission, right? To take time off of your own business? No, everyone has the time. It's a finite resource, but if you invest it wisely, just like any other resource, your return is almost always 3, 4, 5-fold.
Amazing. Amazing. It's I love how you said, I remember my father-in-law's an engineer, was an engineer, he's passed. And we had this nice talk once about how you need to be a technology above what you're
Yes.
working on, or you can't see how all these things are going to fit together. And that's that bird's eye view kind of idea.
Right. Well, and I say there's so many case studies, right? There's a million of them, but I love I love Timex or the Swatch watch or the what. No one expected the disruption of a phone. We don't wear watches anymore, right? And so time is one of those things where it's like no one's watching out for you. Had they been able to look on their business, had they been even just a technology, just a half step, or had someone asked them, who's not your competitor, who you're not worried about, and why not, right? We do all kinds of work like that. Blue
Yeah.
ocean work, working genius work. We do disc, we do assessments, we do all of the things, unpack them. I love Blue Ocean, right? Because Blue Ocean allows you to think about everybody who's not in your right here in front of you. And
Mhm.
what that does really is it says every single one of your potential, competitors could be a partner and level up your business. So we work on all of those things to be able to, as you said, one technology above. Sometimes it's just the half step, a little objectivity, and then everything opens up.
Wow. And you are also a private coach in leadership too, right?
Yes, I am, and I love working with people who are in transition or who are ready to, we said, ready to level up their business. And so we've got people who, the common factor, I would tell you, the common denominator in all of my coaching clients, probably people who get the most from me and I get the most for them, are people who are primed for growth. They're
Okay.
looking for it, right? These are folks who aren't saying, I'm good right here. If I don't grow anymore, and you know what? There are some folks who are in that space and good for them.
Sure.
Probably not my ideal client. We probably wouldn't work well together, or they wouldn't be able to, really get the benefit from coaching. My clients are people who are ready to sort of stretch a little bit and then grow. See what happens if they consider things differently. If they, I'm coaching The Infinite Game right now by Simon Sinek. If you're familiar with him, what he says essentially is there is no competition. There's no winning. There's only living and breathing and succeeding to continue to play the game.
Mhm.
Growth mindset, right? Everything is a growth mindset. If you have an infinite mindset, then everything becomes an opportunity. And you're not trying to beat the guy in front of you. You're trying to play the game, your best game, right? So everything changes. So in my coaching world, I'm constantly trying and trying seeking opportunities for folks to grow a little bit more, take the job they didn't think they could have, seek the opportunity, right? Change their leadership, teach, mentor. We talk a lot about executive shadow, executive presence, tons and tons, as you know, Elle, imposter syndrome. It happens. It happens. And sometimes just recognizing that is enough to change it. And sometimes folks need a little bit more help. And so we teach around that. We mentor all kinds of different wonderful things that happen in a coaching arena. I will say this, some folks are skittish. Why would I have a coach? That seems excessive, right? And you probably have a great answer for that. But what I like to say is, um, uh, Warren Buffett has a coach.
Right, right.
You know, Jeff Bezos has a coach, right?
They have more than one. I have more than one.
Yeah, right, exactly. Scads and scads of coaches. These are guys at the top of their game. So it's probably a recipe for success. And you don't have to follow them or even like what they do. All I mean is people who are best in class. Serena Williams. Let me tell you, she's got a team of coaches on the business side, team of coaches on the athletic side. Like I said, business people, that is your lifeblood. You
Yeah.
should invest in it and be with people who you enjoy and who push you to grow. Um, I also think that so that's a piece of it. Get a coach because you deserve it, your career needs it, and you'll be glad you did, right? The other thing is coaching is not therapy.
Right.
It's not therapy. And so in my coaching practice, we start with the end in mind. It is future focused. We
Hmm.
work our way back from there. And so we don't spend a lot of time talking about mom on the couch and why things happened, right?
Right.
We
Right.
spend a lot of time talking about how we can make the outcome reality.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that's the piece of it, right? And we're laser focused on that, not to the exclusion of other things, but laser focused on what is the outcome, what's the return, how do we get there? And so that allows us to let things kind of fall aside and stay focused on, focused on the prize. And so I think folks tend to enjoy business folks who are eyes on the prize. These are highly motivated, high potential folks, right? Really get to what their outcome is. Typically works with those people the best. And so those are the most fun clients. I always say, this is a business for me, of course, but it's more of a passion and a calling. And I think if you're called to do something, it's never work.
Oh, right. I feel that too. I've coached for hours and not tired at all. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
it's what
right.
it is. And
It's
I love how
energy.
you brought forward the distinction between a coach and a therapist, because even in my realm, yes, I'm a stress management coach, but it's present to future that we're working on. We can
Amen.
touch on some of those things, but that's not the focus. And anything that's in the past has made you who you are, made you strong. And so
Mhm.
here you are right here. Where are we going, and how, I've got to get the exact study on this. There have been several, but when you're in fight or flight, when you actually have triggered the stress response, you can't future pace. You can't even think about it. And so that's where I've come in to help a lot of people be like, oh, this is possible for me. This is possible for my company. Oh, okay. So now what are we going to do here so that this happens? And I love that you brought that forward, because some people get confused. Do I need a therapist? Do I need a coach? You might need all of it.
All the above, sometimes both, right? Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting that you say that too, because a lot of my practice is built on my own. Obviously, we all have our own coaching angles and specialties. I am really focused on sort of an aptitude or a genius arc, right? And so folks may have read The Gap and the Gain. They may have read, other kinds of leadership books where everyone uh, understands that there are, strengths and weaknesses and shortfalls, et cetera. And I find a lot of executives flog themselves constantly because they want to be open. Well, I'm not any good at this, and so I won't know, right? I don't know the information, all the information, and so I can't make that decision. Or I am not fill in the blank. I can't fill in the blank. And so my philosophy is very much stand on your genius. You do know X, Y, and Z. You are these things. And it's okay that you didn't draft the pro forma. You don't need to be the Excel wizard. In fact, that would be a terrible waste of your executive, of your executive skill set. And so let's let those financial wizards do their genius, right? And let's let you manage your executive presence and your skill set without the flogging. Stop. It doesn't do anybody any good.
That's it.
And you're teaching people how to, flog themselves also watching you do that. And so stand on your genius, do what you do. You'll be better at it because you love to do it, right? And
Right.
let everyone else fill in the gap as opposed to you being all things to all people all the time.
Hmm.
So that's a philosophy that I have. And people are like, well, but I have to work on my shortcomings. Okay, listen, you'll get to that. Don't worry. There's plenty of time for that. Right now, stand on your mountain. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we use it. We do that, and most folks are like, well, can, can I can I do that? Yes,
Yes, you
yes, you
can.
can. And it's part of being your best and better self. And it's part of learning and growing. And oh, by the way, everyone else is watching.
Yeah.
You want them to be their better selves, standing on
Yes.
mountains. So that's a piece that
Wow.
I like a lot with, especially with high level, CEOs and executives. People think, oh, they got it all together and they know everything, etc. No, they don't.
No
No,
one
they
does.
don't.
No one
No
does.
one is. So this is a huge piece of my practice in Vistage, and of course my practice in coaching. And it tends to be a shift in thinking,
Yes.
and it's time, and it takes practice, and we role play, and we scenario plan so that the words that come out don't sound like it's the first time we've ever said that. And it works.
I'm curious to know because when if you're flogging yourself because you don't know things, if you're feeling that, are you also doing that to your staff? Like, are you focused more on their weaknesses versus their strengths? And I think back to when I was an executive of a small symphony, so at a small staff, my frontline person taking incoming phone calls, meeting donors, people coming in for tickets, whatever. Like I kept a very close eye to make sure, because she might have a tough client.
Yeah,
And I used to
absolutely.
do this sneaky little thing where there was a second chair up by her desk. I would just come in and I'd just sit next to her.
Right.
And just
Yeah.
like be there. I was managing, I was just definitely a manager by being around everybody, but I would just be with her and get her into just a more settled place to get her back rather than focus on, I could have been this. I could have been like, oh, wow, she shouldn't be in that chair because look, she sometimes has a bad moment. No, no, that's not true. She
Yeah.
was such a great, in fact, there were some clients that only wanted her to do their tickets for them. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Yeah. Well, and I
Meanwhile, the
love
Kellogg
too.
Foundation CEO is calling me for his tickets.
Of course, yeah, right. No, absolutely. And I think part of that is recognizing that your role in leadership is talking kindly to your staff, and talking in a way that you love and appreciate staff. And yes, I said the word love and appreciate. Yes, you do. CEOs have to love their work. They got to love their people. And no, it doesn't have to be family, but it's a team. And people can love their work. They can
Yes.
love their work. That's what staff want. They want admiration and adoration. They want you to sit next to them,
Mhm.
and say, I'm right here. They don't have to say a thing. I'm right here. I got you. I got you, right? That piece of it is just so huge. And oh, by the way, Mary, Susie, Betty, John, you are genius in that space. That is your domain. Give that to them. Let them learn and grow and screw it up and fix it and make it better, right? Let them have that domain. Let them live in that lane. And you live in yours, and you continue to swim together, right? So I think the piece too is the more the more you can let go, right?
Mhm.
That's a big piece. Most of these folks, we talk businesses about closely held businesses, right? That's a word we use for the closely held. And I have said, you need to be less closely held, you know, really, literally less closely held, in that you
Oh,
let people flourish, less closely held.
and it can
So,
be really hard, especially if you're a founder. So
no
I
question. Yeah.
founded a music school with my husband as a part of our symphony.
Yes.
And my vision, because I'm a visioner, I visioned tremendously about it. I mean, if you went back and looked in my goal journals, you see I was visioning what my office would look like and students come, like I was in doing it, but
Yes.
I hardly ever did that because I delegated it all. And it's like
Yeah.
I was creating a baby and instantly handing it over to someone else. That can be really hard for
Right.
founders.
It is very hard. Well, I also think too that you are so associated with your brand because it's who you are as a human being. We talk about that all the time, and that's something we work in, in Vistage groups, and again in coaching, which is, how do I exit? And by the way, exit doesn't mean sell the company and sail off. It might, sail off into the Caribbean. It could. It could
Right.
also mean an active space for you as a founder emeritus, right? Or ex officio, whatever that is. And again, allowing someone to, a couple things, swim in their lane, secure their genius, continue to grow people. And oh, by the way, have you there as a sounding board, not a correction, not a zapper, not a gotcha, not on any of that, as a sounding board. So to your point, what a wonderful gift it would be for a founder to exit and still sit in the chair next to, the person, as you did. Sit in that chair, hold the space for success.
Oh, yes. I love
Okay.
that.
Yeah. You have to hold the space for success. So founders, when they're trying to hold on, it's because that's what they know. But what I find is if they have the capacity and the strength to actually let go, that's where the peace and the genius and all the creativity, all that stuff comes back again, or for the first time, or whatever it is. But what a gift. Most founders are, altruistic givers. They're philanthropic. They're very, very giving. They're vulnerable giving. They are. And they don't realize that exiting their baby, right? Giving it away, if you will, right? Could be the most impactful gift they've ever given to anyone in their, could very well be their legacy. And why not enjoy that, right? While you're still around to help impact it.
Yeah, definitely, because you've got all that wisdom, all that knowledge, and
Yeah.
I think it's I really care a lot about wisdom, and I see a lot of ageism today. It really kind of drives me crazy. Maybe because I'm 60 now, but
It happens. It creeps up on you, doesn't it?
how did that happen?
Yeah, it does.
But honestly, people in their 70s and 80s have so much wisdom to give us.
Yeah.
And I think some people are being stuck out in the pasture way too early and not valued for that. So
I'm so glad you said that. I have had the pleasure and the honor of working in senior living and elder care for half of my career. And I will tell you, my most favorite people are those people who paved the path, right? They were the trailblazers. And so we used to have Wisdom Wednesdays, right? Where everyone would gather around and tell stories. And I would learn and love. And I would I was so excited and thrilled and honored and privileged to be in that space. We created senior living, believe it or not, we have a good time, right? So we built a bar because, listen, right? It was fun. So now we had Wisdom Wednesdays. And let me tell you, at the end of a good stiff shot, it's tough to say that, but what a fun, hilarious time. So I will tell you, the whiskey, whether they had it or not, opened up a whole new era for these folks. Oh, well, let me tell you about when my girlfriends and I went to this place or that, or let me tell you when I did a business deal for $1 million at the back of a bar. And these folks have more business knowledge, more life knowledge, more wisdom, as you said.
yeah,
just need to stop and ask. Or I always tell people, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that, right?
Curiosity.
Yeah. What do we have to do? I can tell you nothing has been more important in my life than just stopping and listening to people. Sometimes I would say, tell me your story, Elle. And, I look at it 2 hours later or 20 minutes later or 2 minutes later. It doesn't really matter. I always learn something. Always.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Kelly, this has been phenomenal. We've brought up a couple of really important things. That idea of peer, accountability, getting out of the way.
That's right.
It's like all these things that sometimes feel impossible. Don't have enough time, but they need me. All those things that you get to crack the code on through your coaching and through Vistage too. So I really appreciate you coming on. How can people get in touch with you, and what do you have for people?
Thank you so much. It's been an honor just to talk about it. Folks can get a hold of me. The best way to reach me actually is on LinkedIn. That's where my network is. That's where I do my handshaking. And so my name is Kelly Scheer. You can reach me at LinkedIn, of course, or you can find me at Vistage, Michigan. Vistage is spelled Vistage, Michigan. Both of those places have websites. My bio, all that stuff is all on there. You can take a look. And the one thing I will tell you is if you're asking the questions about the things that you had just said, sometimes it's good just to vet some of that. And a coach is a great way to do that. A really good way to say, hey, am I thinking this right here? Or what do you think about that? Find someone to bounce those things off of. It will benefit you enormously.
Tremendous. I love it so much. So we will have links down below so people can easily find you. And Kelly, this has been great. Really brought forth some really important things for people. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Elle. Thanks.
So stay tuned. We will have another great speaker for you tomorrow, and just keep looking at your email every day, and we'll make sure that you continue on this leadership series with us. And so I'm Elle Ingalls with Pressure Free Living signing off. Have a good day.